India and Sri Lanka lie just 27 kilometers apart, closer than the UK and France. Together, they're home to 1.49 billion people, nearly 1/5 of the global population. Each year, they trade billions in goods and exchange hundreds of thousands of tourists. And yet, there is no bridge, no tunnel, no physical connection between them. However, this might soon be about to change.
A land bridge between the two countries.
New Delhi has said that an idea of a land bridge connecting the two nations was proposed by Sri Lanka.
The thread of connectivity is woven through our history. In our view, the present time is a most opportune moment to embark on such a vision for the future.
In June 2002, amid fragile peace talks during the Sri Lankan Civil War, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe visited India, where he and Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee agreed to conduct a feasibility study for a bridge between the two countries. However, the project soon faced opposition from politicians in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, who worried that violence from the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE, the Sri Lankan militant nationalist organization then fighting for independence, would spread into their state. In addition, by July 2006, peace talks had broken down and war resumed, casting the proposal into the shadows. However, in 2009, the Sri Lankan Civil War finally came to an end. And in the following years, the country made significant strides in rebuilding infrastructure and stabilizing politically. As a result, the proposal for a bridge re-emerged, and in June 2015, Nitin Gadkari, India's Minister of Road Transport and Highways, submitted the proposal to the Asian Development Bank, who agreed to finance the bridge's construction. However, with a lack of political consensus, in December 2015, Lakshman Kiriella, Sri Lanka's Minister of Transport and Highways, dismissed the proposal. Over the following years, it remained on the sidelines. Then, in 2022, the Sri Lankan economy collapsed.
Sri Lanka is facing its worst economic crisis since independence in 1948.
Amid rising foreign debt, declining tax revenue, crop failures, and global shortages from the Russian invasion of Ukraine, in early 2022, Sri Lanka was facing severe shortages of fuel, food, and medicine, along with skyrocketing inflation. Then, having depleted nearly all foreign reserves, on April 12, 2022, the government defaulted on over $28 billion in foreign debt, marking the worst financial crisis in Sri Lanka's post-independence history. Amid this chaos and resulting protests, on July 13, 2022, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled the country and resigned. And only 2 days later, Ranil Wickremesinghe, the original advocate for an India-Sri Lanka bridge, was appointed as president.
Ranil Wickremesinghe has been sworn in as the 8th president of Sri Lanka.
Wickremesinghe's immediate priority was to stabilize and recover the economy. As part of this, he saw a bridge with India as a way to increase trade, attract tourism, and improve regional integration. As a result, in July 2023, during a 2-day visit to India, Wickremesinghe and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi agreed to conduct a feasibility study for a bridge between the two nations. In January 2024, the study started, and in July 2024, Wickremesinghe announced that it was in its final stages.
Studying the feasibility of building an oil pipeline and a land bridge between the two countries.
An India-Sri Lanka bridge would be roughly 40 kilometers long across the shallow Palk Strait, connecting Dhanushkodi, India, and Talai Manar, Sri Lanka. It would be a single-deck highway bridge with 4 lanes, accommodating vehicles up to 100 kilometers per hour. In addition, a parallel or separate dual-track railway bridge would likely be included. On each side of the bridge, existing roads and railways would be upgraded or rebuilt to accommodate increased traffic. Specifically, new roads and railways would be extended to Trincomalee Port in eastern Sri Lanka, which is one of the world's largest and deepest natural harbors, allowing Indian exports to use it as a gateway to Southeast Asia. In total, the India-Sri Lanka highway bridge would cost an estimated $4.9 billion, with an additional $1 to $3 billion for an integrated or separate railway bridge. This would likely be funded by the Indian government or Asian Development Bank. And while $4.9 billion is a hefty price tag, it's an investment that could redefine trade, tourism, and cooperation in the region.
Establishing a land connectivity across the Palk Strait will give India access to the key ports of Trincomalee and Colombo.
By uniting the road and rail networks of India and Sri Lanka, a bridge would significantly reduce transport times and costs. India is Sri Lanka's largest trading partner, with the two countries exchanging $4 billion worth of goods in 2023. Currently, most of these goods travel via sea, from ports like Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, and Tuticorin to Colombo. The only problem? It's slow and expensive. Freight traveling between Tuticorin and Colombo typically takes 2 to 5 days, compared to as little as 9 hours via the proposed bridge. In addition, ocean freight charges, port handling costs, and custom fees further drive up costs. As a result, it is predicted that a bridge would halve transport costs between India and Sri Lanka. It's expected these lower costs would cause an uptick in trade, helping generate thousands of new jobs, while lowering the cost of goods, reducing poverty. In addition, a bridge would help direct more trade and economic activity through the northern provinces of Sri Lanka, which have historically been excluded from international trade. It would also allow companies in Sri Lanka to link up with the supply chains of the prominent automobile, electronics, and textile industries in Tamil Nadu, boosting the economy. Furthermore, a bridge would likely increase tourism. Historically, due to their distance from the main international airport in Colombo, only a small number of tourists have visited the north and eastern provinces of Sri Lanka. By providing a fast, affordable path for Indian tourists to visit the northern provinces, a bridge would help alleviate this issue. Lastly, a bridge would unite the road and rail networks of Sri Lanka with the rest of South Asia, improving regional connectivity and trade across the region. However, this connectivity isn't just about economics. It's also about influence. Enter China.
China's growing presence and influence in the Indian Ocean is raising alarm in India.
In February 2007, Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa visited Beijing, China, where it was agreed that Chinese companies would fund the Hambantota International Port project in southern Sri Lanka. In 2008, construction started, and in 2010, it opened. However, over the following years, this and many other infrastructure megaprojects put Sri Lanka into massive debt, much of which it was struggling to pay back. As a result, in July 2017, Sri Lanka signed a deal with the China Merchants Port Holdings Company, granting it an 85% stake in Hambantota Port's commercial operations on a 99-year lease, in exchange for $1.12 billion, which Sri Lanka used to bolster its foreign reserves. This transaction gave China control over a strategic port, located just a few kilometers away from one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, fitting into its larger strategy of establishing a network of commercial and potential future military facilities across the Indian Ocean. This alarmed India, which views the Indian Ocean as its natural sphere of influence and sees growing Chinese involvement in the region as a direct threat to its power projection and national security. As a result, since 2017, India has sought to deepen its ties with Sri Lanka through infrastructure investments, financial assistance, and increased diplomatic efforts. This approach became especially evident in 2022, when India provided $4 billion in support, surpassing China as the island's single largest source of foreign debt disbursements. A bridge would further advance this strategy, helping India assert regional leadership in the Indian Ocean and counterbalance China's growing presence. However, not everyone in Sri Lanka likes the idea of this.
But we have to question, why have we lost our influence in these countries?
While an India-Sri Lanka bridge has promising benefits, there is considerable opposition in Sri Lanka, with many fearing the bridge would undermine its physical and strategic autonomy. India is a regional giant compared to Sri Lanka, with 50 times the land area, 63 times the population, and 42 times the GDP. This contrast, along with their close proximity, puts Sri Lanka in India's shadow, creating concerns regarding overdependence and domination. This dynamic only got worse during the Sri Lankan Civil War, when India provided early support to Tamil militant organizations and later deployed the Indian peacekeeping force to northern and eastern Sri Lanka, which eventually engaged in full-scale combat with the LTTE, a move widely perceived as a violation of national sovereignty. As a result, Sri Lanka has historically positioned itself as a non-aligned state, engaging in a mix of diplomatic and economic partnerships with nations across the world. By physically uniting itself with India, many in Sri Lanka fear a bridge would destroy this strategic autonomy, effectively making it a client state to India, which would then dissuade other countries from deepening ties with it and erode Sri Lanka's leverage as a neutral state between competing global powers. But this opposition to the bridge isn't just strategic. It's also shaped by a history of conflict and division that still casts a shadow today.
Anti-Tamil violence broke out in July 1983 here in this Colombo suburb.
Following Sri Lanka's independence from Great Britain in 1948, the new Sri Lankan government, dominated by the Sinhala majority ethnic group, passed laws that marginalized the minority Tamil ethnic group. In 1948, 700,000 Indian Tamils were rendered stateless. In 1956, Sinhala was enforced as the sole official language, excluding Tamil. And in 1972, university quotas disadvantaged Tamil students, and the new constitution gave Buddhism, the main religion of the Sinhalese, priority over Hinduism, the main religion of Tamils. In addition, anti-Tamil riots in 1956 and 1958 left hundreds dead or displaced, deepening ethnic divisions. This discrimination and violence fueled Tamil separatism, and in 1972, the Tamil United Liberation Front was formed, calling for a new independent state called Tamil Eelam. Meanwhile, the militant organization Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE, emerged to fight for this cause. Then, on July 24, 1983, a violent, premeditated pogrom targeting the Tamil population broke out, in what would later be called Black July. Over a 6-day period, mobs swept through neighborhoods, homes were torched, Tamils were beaten and killed in the streets, resulting in thousands of deaths and an estimated 150,000 people left homeless. This served as a breaking point. Over the following weeks, thousands of Tamil youth enlisted in militant organizations, and what followed was a 26-year-long civil war, one of the bloodiest in South Asian history, ending only in 2009 with the defeat of the LTTE. Yet even today, 16 years later, the scars run deep. Ethnic divisions still linger. Reconciliation is far from complete, and tension still simmers beneath the surface. As a result, many Sinhala nationalists in the south feared that a bridge with India could enable uncontrolled migration of Indian Tamils into northern Sri Lanka, or strengthen cross-border Tamil ties, potentially reigniting separatist movements. Critics also warn that with less customs oversight compared to seaborne freight, the bridge could become a high-risk corridor for drugs, weapons, and human trafficking, especially in a region with a history known for smuggling. And if that weren't enough, the bridge runs straight through one of South Asia's most sacred and ecologically sensitive sites.
There are Hindu legends that the god Rama placed a bridge here connecting India to Sri Lanka.
The India-Sri Lanka bridge would run directly adjacent to Adam's Bridge, or Ram Setu, a chain of natural limestone shoals that, according to the Hindu epic Ramayana, was built by Lord Rama's Vanara army thousands of years ago, as part of their campaign to rescue Rama's wife Sita from the demon king Ravana in Lanka. As a result, Ram Setu and the nearby town of Rameswaram serve as one of the 4 holiest sites in Hinduism, receiving millions of tourists a year. Because of this, many Hindus oppose the bridge, claiming it would desecrate the divine site of Ram Setu. Not only this, the area around the bridge sits within a protected Indian Marine Biosphere Reserve in a Sri Lankan national park. It is ecologically rich, with the sand dunes serving as breeding grounds for birds and the shallow waters serving as home to thriving populations of fish, seagrasses, dolphins, dugongs, and turtles. As a result, an India-Sri Lanka bridge would have to navigate multiple levels of environmental clearance while likely infuriating Hindu religious groups and environmental organizations.
In our view, the present time is a most opportune moment to embark on such a vision for the future.
Due to its controversy, the India-Sri Lanka bridge proposal has faced serious hurdles. And in September 2024, Anura Kumara Dissanayake was inaugurated as the new president of Sri Lanka. In April 2025, his administration formally rejected the proposal, citing concerns over a loss of sovereignty and national identity. Still, the idea isn't completely dead. Wickremesinghe continues to advocate for it. India remains supportive, and the economic logic, faster trade, increased tourism, and stronger connectivity remains compelling. But beneath the economics lies a deeper question. Ultimately, Sri Lanka may face a defining choice: embrace economic integration through a bridge to India, or preserve its strategic autonomy in an increasingly polarized region. Which one it chooses, we will just have to wait and see. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you like, check out the discussion in the comments below, and click the subscribe button here next to me. As a solo creator, this helps me to keep producing videos and improve the quality every time. Also, if you'd like to learn about more fascinating bridge projects, please check out my bridge playlist right here. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.